just like a club.
Okay.
I hope that Christine and David both have.
Starspill USA brings you a story that started not with shouting or door slamming, but with a coldness no one in the Brown family could escape. Not the winter chill that slips in under doors, nor the sting of harsh words, but a quiet frost that settled between people who once called themselves family. For years, the Browns had presented themselves as invincible. A unique polygamous family-defying convention, smiling through tension. Holding hands through disagreements, convincing audiences that their bond could outlast storms. Yet behind the careful grins, the TLC confessionals, and the staged Sunday dinners, a tempest smoldered. That storm erupted the day Christine Brown packed her bags and walked away. She didn't just leave a husband's, she left a system, a belief, a structure that had defined her entire adult life. And once that first domino fell, Janelle followed, abandoning not only Cody, but the very framework that had promised equality and community. The world thought the cameras had already shown it, all the tears, the arguments, the breakdowns, but they hadn't seen the hidden papers. The late-night texts about missing money, the bank records that told a story no episode had dared capture. What had begun as a faith-bound family had slowly twisted into a web of favoritism, financial mismanagement, and backroom deals. The cracks widened until Christine's attorney ordered a preliminary audit of family assets. What surfaced wasn't a simple miscalculation, it was missing money. Tens of thousands of dollars saved under the promise of equality. Pooled for shared land, joint retirement, and children's futures. Gone. Explanations were vague. School tuition here, emergency withdrawals there. Yet every trail circled back. To one residence, Robbins. The legal wife, the woman whose name, by coincidence or design, was on every account Cody touched. Christine didn't sit on the discovery. She called Janelle and the conversation was short, clipped, edged with betrayal. "I thought this was ours, not just his," Christine said. Janelle didn't argue. She opened her laptop and began pulling together years of receipts, transfers, texts, and statements. In weeks, a legal team was assembled. At first, it wasn't about destruction. It was about answers, clarity, accountability. But justice has a way of reshaping lives. Arbitration turned to civil action. And suddenly, Cody Brown, the man who built a reality empire on the image of family unity, was standing as the defendant in a financial lawsuit brought by two of his former spiritual wives. Mary hovered in silence, undecided, while Robin defended herself fiercely, claiming every dollar spent had purpose, every decision had reason, and if misunderstandings existed, they weren't malicious. But Christine and Janelle were unmoved. Their attorneys pressed on, and a court date was set. Mid-October in Arizona arrived with its dry air, but inside the courthouse, the tension was thick. Reporters gathered outside, though cameras were barred from the room. No TLC crew. No producers, only raw reality. Cody walked in wearing a gray suit, looking pale, thinner, his curls pulled back, a far cry from the casual man fans knew. Robin stayed close, head bowed, sunglasses shielding her from the glare. Christine entered in navy blue, collected and cool. Janelle followed, her face unreadable, but her presence unshaken. This was no reunion. It was a reckoning. Cody's lawyer moved for dismissal, arguing that their marriages were spiritual, not legal, and therefore agreements carried no weight. But Christine's side produced texts, emails, and family meeting notes showing shared funds, joint investments, and promises of equal land distribution, verbal contracts enforceable in law. The judge, a sharp woman with 2 decades on the bench, brushed aside the theatrics of reality TV, ignoring the melodrama and religious undertones. Her interest was precise: the money. Who gave it, who spent it, and who was entitled to what. Christine refused to meet Cody's eyes. Janelle, however, stared him down with unflinching anger. The evidence wasn't only financial, it was deeply human. Christine's testimony included a journal entry from 2020. "I worry that we're putting into a pot we'll never get back from." Janelle submitted a screenshot of a $30,000 transfer for a family expense that was never reimbursed. What played out wasn't just a civil case, it was the unraveling of a family empire strand by strand. After a long day, the judge adjourned, but immediately froze family accounts, appointing a forensic accountant to audit 5 years of Brown Family LLC records and Coyote Pass transactions. All projects halted. As the courtroom emptied, Cody lingered, shoulders heavy. Robin touched his arm, but he didn't move. Across the room, Christine and Janelle shared a nod, not of victory, but of resolve. For decades, their voices were edited, softened, framed by producers. That day, their voices were entered into record, unfiltered, undeniable. Reporters swarmed as they left, asking if they felt betrayed, if they regretted trusting Cody. They answered with silence, their cars pulling away as they had once walked away from the family, quietly, firmly, with purpose. Inside the court, prepared for the next session, Christine took the stand, her heels clicking against the floor louder than words. She wasn't the Christine viewers remembered, the one who swallowed pain and smiled through neglect. She sat with composure that startled even Cody. Her attorney asked her to explain her understanding of Coyote Pass ownership. She answered firmly, "It was a family decision. Equal homes, equal lots, equal ownership. That was the promise." She confirmed she had contributed by selling her Las Vegas home and pouring the profits into the joint account, believing in the family dream. The crushing blow came when she revealed she discovered a year later that her name wasn't on the deeds. Neither was Janelle's. Only Cody and Robin held majority titles, with Mary holding partial, convoluted rights. Christine's voice wavered as she said, "I felt erased. After decades of sacrifice, I was legally invisible. Wasn't told, I found out myself." Documents were presented, her sales record, the wire transfer, the family account, the deed missing her name. Christine spoke again. "I left because I realized I wasn't in a marriage. I was in a contract I never signed. I gave and gave, but when I asked questions, I was told I lacked faith, patience, or the right spirit. I stayed for my kids, for the show, for our legacy." But what legacy was left when my trust was buried under paperwork? Her lawyer then produced transcripts from TLC episodes and family meetings where Cody himself promised equal shares, equal homes, equal future. The judge read aloud Cody's own words, "We're building this for all of us. Everyone gets their share." Christine added softly, "Turns out those were just sound bites." Next came the text messages, Cody assuring Christine she would be included while secretly filing deeds otherwise. The courtroom hushed. Even paper rustles stopped. Christine's testimony cut deep. "I wasn't just excluded, I was erased." Her pain was more than financial, it was personal, spiritual, existential. And as her words settled, it became clear. This wasn't just about land or money. It was about betrayal, broken trust, and the collapse of a dream that millions once watched unfold in pastel-colored trailers and family dinners. What began as unity ended in court summons. What began as love ended in financial disputes. The Browns were no longer a tale of togetherness, but of separation, legal reality, and emotional wreckage. And for the first time, the truth wasn't filtered through reality TV. It was sworn under oath, etched into record, unerasable, unerasable.
Cody's relationship with his older children, a lot of them were really, really good. Christine left and all that changed.
Christine had asked directly, "Why isn't my name on the paperwork?" Cody's response was evasive, rehearsed almost. "Let's talk about it later. It's not a big deal. You're overthinking it." A remark so casual it could have been dismissed in another setting, now immortalized in print, submitted, and officially entered into evidence. Cody shifted uncomfortably in his seat. the small tremor of his hands betraying the anxiety he refused to acknowledge outwardly his. Solicitor had objected briefly, citing emotional bias, but the judge overruled it almost immediately. The courtroom fell silent, the point unmissable. Trust had been shattered. And where trust is broken, a paper trail inevitably follows, indelible, undeniable, unforgiving. Then, a moment no one had fully anticipated arrived. Christine's solicitor leant forward, voice steady but commanding. Christine, after discovering the title issue, did you ever ask to be reimbursed for your contribution? Christine's eyes dropped, scanning the polished floor, the weight of years of betrayal visible in her posture. Slowly, she lifted her gaze, eyes shimmering with a mixture of exhaustion and resolve. No, she admitted softly, yet with a firmness that reverberated through the courtroom. I didn't want to fight. I thought that if I simply walked away, I could find peace. I relinquished my share. I just wanted out. But as her words hung in the air, memories surged back. $75,000 withdrawals. The house Robin had received, the money drawn from their joint account. It was not only Christine who had been cut out, it was all of them, except for Robin. The atmosphere in the courtroom thickened, heavy with unspoken tension. The mention of the infamous spending spree, unearthed only recently by Janelle, intensified. The emotional weight, an invisible storm pressing down on everyone present. Christine's voice cracked, almost imperceptibly, but the resolve behind it was unmistakable. It isn't about the money anymore. It's about principle. Years of loyalty dismissed. Watching someone else gain, while the rest of us were told to be patient. I had to stand up not for revenge, but so that it doesn't happen to another woman who believes love equals silence. Her testimony stretched on for over an hour. Yet not a single person in the room dared blink, not the judge, not the solicitors, not even the court stenographer. His fingers hovered, frozen above the keys, capturing every syllable like sacred scripture. When Cody's solicitor rose for cross-examination, he fidgeted nervously with his tie, attempting to project control while his voice betrayed a subtle tremor. Miss Brown, did your decision to leave the family color your perception of these financial issues? Christine's reply was firm, unwavering, and cutting through the pretense. My choice to leave was due to these money issues. He pressed further, attempting to regain some footing. Would you say that at no point did Cody prevent you from using family funds? Christine's glare could have frozen glass. He didn't have to forbid it. He controlled everything. If I needed something, I had to request it. I was allowed an allowance like a teenager. No access to banks, no signing authority, only assurances. And when I complained, I was told I was being melodramatic. Objections fluttered briefly from Cody's solicitor, but the judge allowed the line of questioning to continue. Hey, Miss Brown, were you ever lawfully married to Mr. Brown? Christine's bitter smile carried a weight far heavier than mere words could convey. No, but that does not mean I did not build a life with him, raise his children, invest my time and my money. License or not, I was a wife and treated like an employee. Her final words, spoken as she left the stand, cut through the room like a knife's edge. I did not come here to destroy him. I came here to be counted. The courtroom remained frozen. Not even Cody, who had spent most of the testimony scribbling notes or leaning into his solicitor, dared move. Outside, photographers swarmed, lenses clicking like the restless wings of a disturbed hive. Inside, the judge called a brief recess, yet the weight of Christine's testimony lingered, hanging in the air like an invisible residue of truth. This was no longer a simple courtroom drama. This was reckoning, the most intimate secrets of a family laid bare under the unforgiving light of scrutiny. When Janelle approached the witness stand, her steps were deliberate, measured, and calmed. Theatrical, not fiery. She had long been the quiet pillar of the Brown family, the spreadsheet guru, the meticulous steward of their finances, the silent observer who ensured the family ran smoothly while others distanced themselves from accountability. Now that same obsessive attention to detail became her ultimate weapon. She placed her binder on the stand with care, opening it with the precision of a surgeon preparing for a life-altering operation. The court, still reeling from Christine's testimony, leaned forward in anticipation. "Mrs. Brown, can you tell us what documents you've brought today?" her solicitor asked. Janelle nodded, her voice steady yet resonant. 5 years' worth of records, bank statements, deposit slips, expense reports, computer logs. I managed the majority of the family finances. Every dollar deposited, every wire transfer, I accounted for it all. It's past the first exhibit, to the court clerk who placed it carefully before the judge. "I always thought about fairness," she continued. "That's how we survived as a plural family sharing." But over time, withdrawals began to shift. They were no longer for essentials. They disproportionately benefited one household, Drabins. She highlighted a spreadsheet. $75,000 had been taken from the joint account between March and August 2022. Described as emergency expenses or miscellaneous support, yet receipts told a very different story. Private school fees, bespoke furniture, lavish home renovations, luxury indulgences, not emergencies. Her voice quivered slightly with the weight of betrayal. 6 children I raised in that household. We lived modestly. I budgeted meticulously, often foregoing essentials so we could manage. And then I discovered Robin's children attending private schools. Her home upgraded while I worried over property taxes. Janelle then presented a canceled check she had written herself. $20,000 for property taxes on Coyote Pass. Cody had claimed everyone contributed, yet she alone had paid that year. Reimbursement? Not a penny. The judge raised a questioning brow. "Are you saying your credit was used without your consent?" "Yes," Janelle replied firmly. Her earnings were listed as an affiliate on a joint loan application, yet she had never signed it, nor had she been informed. A ripple of murmurs ran through the courtroom. Cody's glare hardened, but Janelle remained composed, snapping her binder shut, her gaze unwavering, locked on the judge. "I left not bitter, but broke. I need to know why." Cody's solicitor attempted cross-examination, framing the complexities of family finances as justification. Janelle's response was unwavering, precisely why transparency is crucial. Access to an individual does not guarantee access to answers. Contribution is not consent when information is withheld. The cross-examination lasted less than 10 minutes. The evidence was too concrete, the paper trail too unassailable. There was nothing to refute. As Janelle stepped down, her face betrayed exhaustion, yet also quiet triumph. Being the quiet one had never meant being blind. Cody stole a brief glance, no rage, perhaps only the faintest flicker of regret. The judge called a recess. Whispers spread through the courtroom. The truth revealed was undeniable. This was no longer a family quarrel, was a systematic exposure of manipulation, hierarchy, and silent inequity. Outside, headlines were already forming. $75,000 withdrawn without consent. Janelle Brown goes nuclear in court. Inside, reality was starker still. Janelle had not merely presented numbers. She had exposed a system. Trust could no longer be waved away. Only the unvarnished truth remained. Cody finally stood and approached the witness stand. Gone was the confident stride, the familiar half-smile, the puffed chest. Gone were all performances, all facades. The cameras, the media frenzy, the public spectacle, none of it mattered here. This was not a reality TV set. This was a court of law. This was reality. And in that courtroom, silence reigned. Every eye watched. Every heartbeat seemed amplified. The stage was set not for drama, but for judgment. And the ghosts of betrayal hovered, waiting to be confronted.
So in anticipation that I may have to fight for my fair part of this property,
Finally, Cody had to answer to someone who wasn't part of his family, wasn't bound by loyalty, and wasn't following any reality TV script. He lifted his right hand, swore the oath, and slowly lowered himself into the witness seat. His face looked older than it really was, worn, strained, exhausted from decades of managing multiple wives and nearly 20 children. The man who had once commanded attention with charisma now seemed trapped. Like a general watching the empire he had built crumble from the inside. Every crease on his forehead, every twitch of his eyes, every nervous shift of his shoulders told a story of control slipping away, of secrets exposed, and of power that was never as solid as it seemed. His attorney rose, steady and calm, a gentle anchor in the storm. "Mr. Brown, can you describe to the court how you saw your role in the family?" Cody inhaled deeply, letting the weight of all those years press down on him. He nodded faintly. "I saw myself as the leader, the one who carried the responsibility of guidance, protection, planning. This lifestyle isn't simple. It needs structure, rules, framework. I was that framework. Perhaps I wasn't perfect, but I tried. I did what I thought was best for everyone." A subtle tremor ran through his voice, betraying the certainty he had always projected. For years, he had been the center, the decision maker, the one everyone looked to. Now, stripped of TV cameras and household theatrics, he was just a man facing the weight of his own choices. When asked about family finances, Cody shifted uneasily. "We had an understanding of communal pot. Sometimes one household had more. Sometimes another had less. But over time, it balanced out. Everyone put in, everyone trusted me to manage it responsibly." His words sounded empty even to himself. Cress, he realized, had been one-sided. The delicate web of promises, silent compliance, and unspoken agreements had begun to unravel, and now the courtroom bore witness. Yet Christine and Janelle say they were excluded from decision-making. Is that true? The lawyer's voice was calm but unyielding. Cody hesitated. He could feel the heat rising in his chest, the familiar knot of anxiety he had learned to ignore for decades. No, not. Intentionally, I may have taken more control in later years. Things got messy. Conflicts arose. People wanted different things. You can't manage a family like a democracy when nobody agrees. They stopped trusting me. That's what happened. He glanced toward the gallery, where his wives sat quietly, faces unreadable, yet filled with silent judgment. "Were you trying to keep the family together?" the lawyer asked, pressing gently but firmly. Cody's voice grew louder, a mix of frustration, fear, and vulnerability. "I was the glue. When respect disappeared, everything fell apart. They say I left them out, but they started leaving me out first." The courtroom fell silent. Not just a pause in speech, but a stillness heavy with the gravity of lost trust, years of unspoken resentment, and the collapse of what had once seemed unshakable. Then the moment came that no facade could hide. The judge leaned forward, scanning pages of transactions, property deeds, and spreadsheets meticulously compiled over years. Her eyes were sharp, unwavering. "Mr. Brown," she asked, her tone firm, "why are your name and Robin Brown's on every major family asset but not the others?" The room seemed to hold its breath. Cody swallowed hard, a movement that betrayed the anxiety beneath his composed exterior. "Robin and I are the only legally married. It's simplified paperwork. Banks required a marriage contract. I intended to include the others later, but things got hectic. Christine left. Then Janelle and I had problems. It wasn't the right time to amend legal documents, I thought. I thought it could wait." He avoided the judge's piercing gaze. Every word felt like another crack in the wall he had built around himself. "You expected them to contribute financially to property they had no legal claim to," the judge demanded sharply. Cody hesitated. "Not really. They had a spiritual claim. It was supposed to be shared. I didn't expect things to erupt the way they did." The questioning intensified. Christine had invested $160,000 in the Coyote Pass project. Joint loans had been taken using spouses' income without consent. Reimbursements were never made. Documents remained unsigned. Promises were left unfulfilled. Cody's responses became slower, quieter. Finally, in a whisper barely audible, he admitted, "I thought that if I just kept going, I could hold everything together. I didn't know I was leaving others behind." The silence that followed was deafening. Spoke louder than any defense, louder than any accusation. It revealed not just failure, but the human flaw behind the public persona. A man craving control, yet unwilling to be transparent. A leader who demanded obedience, yet avoided accountability. A figure who believed love could substitute for fairness. The judge's voice finally broke through the tension. "We have reviewed the evidence. Mr. Brown, whether you acted with malice is not the question. The question is whether you fulfilled your fiduciary and ethical duties to those who trusted. I am issuing a temporary hold on all Coyote Pass property dealings. No sale, development, or transfer until a complete third-party forensic audit is finished. Brown Family LLC operations are halted for now. Each party, Christine, Janelle, and Mary, must provide full records of all financial contributions. Over the past decade, non-compliance will lead to additional legal consequences." Cody's shoulders slumped. The weight of authority, control, and expectation had finally crushed him. Robin reached out, touching his arm, a gesture that might have been grounding, comforting, but now felt hollow. The courtroom was silent, heavy with the truth. This was more than legal procedure. It was accountability, reckoning, and the confrontation of decades of choices laid bare. Outside, the media buzzed. Cameras flashed. Reporters whispered, eager for the next headline. Inside, the air remained thick with tension and clarity. Christine and Janelle exchanged a quiet glance. There was no vengeance, no anger, just a moment of mutual understanding. They had reclaimed their voices, their stories, and their authority. No longer silent figures in Cody's narrative, they were now narrators of their own lives. Cody remained still, realizing the full weight of his mistakes. The man who once commanded obedience, whose every word had been followed, now faced the emptiness that comes from lost trust. The realization wasn't anger, nor denial. It was a quiet, unavoidable truth. Authority without accountability is nothing but illusion. Later, outside the courthouse, a reporter shouted, "Cody, do you feel betrayed?" He paused, glanced at the chaos behind him, and said softly, "No, not with anger, but with honesty. I feel seen." In that moment, the illusions fell away. Control, charm, and unchecked authority could no longer hide the truth. For Christine and Janelle, it was the beginning of something profoundly new: accountability, recognition, and reclaimed dignity. They were no longer supporting characters, they were the narrators of their own story. Voices, long silenced, now resonated through a courtroom that had become a stage for truth. The courtroom doors may have closed, but the story was far from over. Coyote Pass was frozen. Every property, every financial transaction was now under scrutiny. Relationships had fractured beyond repair, but honesty and responsibility had emerged stronger than ever. Cody learned the hard way that leadership without transparency and fairness is meaningless. For the full story, Courtroom updates detailed breakdowns and analysis of every dramatic twist. Follow my channel, Starspill USA, where real-life stories, justice, and truth come alive. Come alive.